What is going on, everyone? It's Ultimate Spy 53 here, and welcome to another episode of Reviewed number 85. And today I'm going to be reviewing the movie Chappie. So, what are my thoughts on Chappie? Well, it was very hardcore. It's a hard R, and there's a reason for it. Because, first of all, there's lots of language. A lot of it is swearing and just cussing, lots of just F-bombs. It is not for kids. And because it's in a very adult movie. It's a very, very much adult movie. Although it is science fiction, it has a lot of adult themes in it. One of them which being drugs. I noticed that a lot of the movie people were smoking, like a lot. I mean, I'm not saying that in movies that's a bad thing. It sends a bad message, and I'm not a big fan of movies that do that. I didn't like that part about it. It just felt too much, and they have graffiti, which is crazy because a lot of the movie wasn't supposed to be like that because it's a science fiction movie. But there's a lot of graffiti with just swear words all over the place, and it's just dirty. And you got these punk gangsters who are just crazy. Like they like mullets, and they just like overall it's a very hardcore movie with the adult in it. Like you have these characters that are just these gangsters, and it's a crazy thing. I didn't like the gangster things. That's one thing I didn't like about the movie was the gangster thing. But I didn't like the movie because of the gangster thing. But I liked parts of it. There were parts of this movie that I enjoyed. Just it wasn't. I ever came to realize this is not a movie for me. I'm probably not gonna watch it again. I picked this movie to review because it looked like a really interesting movie because of the whole idea of robots, and I like movies with robots. I do. I'm a big fan of those movies, and I didn't realize coming into the movie that it would be such hardcore scenes. In fact, I'm going into the violence. There's a lot of violence in it, a lot, and I would say some violence to the level of Deadpool or even Marvel Netflix. It gets it slowly turns into that because at first it starts out not that bad, but later there's a lot of blood and guns, a lot of guns, and eventually there gets to the point because when I saw the scene, just like, oh my god, there's a scene where a guy's body gets ripped in half by one of the mech robots because there's these mech robots, and that's why I couldn't believe was in the movie. It's like, oh my god, I'm like, oh, I know that wasn't that bad, but it gets really crazy. And this movie is not a kids movie. It is not anything for even if you're a nerd. I'd still recommend it. I just going into it, I would recommend to expect it to be very hardcore and very different. Like most science fiction movies are awesome, and there's a lot of space battles and all this stuff, and technology. This has some of that, but most of the movie is very adult and very hardcore, and a lot of punk rock and all that kind of stuff, and crazy, and a lot of language and violence and adult themes. It's just all that stuff. Drugs. There's a lot of drugs. There's a lot of smoking in the movie. I noticed that. I'm not against the movie. There's a lot of it that I didn't like. There's a lot of it. There are some things, like for example, Hugh Jackman with it. He played this character, obviously with his own native accent, obviously. And also, he had Sigourney Weaver in it. I think he's the only other actress that I recognize, aside from I think Dev Patel, who, if you don't know who he was in the atrocious Last Airbender movie by M. Night Shyamalan, which was god awful. And he played Zuko in that one, and I didn't even realize that he was in this movie. I thought I saw the actor somewhere. I'm like, wait, that guy looks familiar. And then it turns out, reading the credits, I'm like, oh my god, he's actually he played Zuko in that god awful. Despite it being god awful, I still recognize what it means by Dev Patel. I'm like, oh, that actor, he was Zuko in that movie. Ugh. Yeah, I only really got two actors that I really recognized. The rest of them, I had no idea who they were at all. But basically, the idea of the movie is that it's like the near future, something like that. I can't remember exactly. It didn't specify what year it was, but it was sometime in the future when the world is, you know, using robots as their police force. Well, I think they do have some police, but I believe most of the police are replaced with police force robots. And one of the robots becomes damaged. Like his batteries fuse with another part of his like, I think it might be his like consciousness or something, and so because of that, the battery can't be replaced, and like once it powers up, it only has 5 days to live. Basically, like it battery lasts for 5 days. A very kind of random number, but like that's just like the weird thing. And basically, because of that, I'm guessing that has to do with it basically causing it to have the mind of a child. Like it like starts out like being unable to really speak words, and it that's like a child that's afraid of everything. And then the gang members that take him in, like there's these gangsters, and they take him in. That's one of the. Of course, I mentioned that I did not like the gang members. I just did not like that part of the movie. That you know, that aspect, that theme. It didn't agree with me at all. I was just watching like, this is really stupid and I don't like it. And I didn't like most of it. There are parts I did like. I'm only reviewing it because it had a somewhat interesting plot. It had something interesting because it's a science fiction movie. It looked like a good movie, and it turns out it's not a bad movie. It just has some, you know, things that I didn't like about it. And basically they take him in and they teach him to, you know, to speak everything, and they name him Chappie. I don't know really why they name him Chappie. I feel like all the robots are named Chappie. Well, that's what I felt like watching the movie. It's not really like that, but you know, it eventually Chappie the robot it grows into an adult. Like over the course of the 5 days, or I think it was less than 5 days, it grows from being a mother child to becoming an adult, having an adult mind, because the gangsters kind of teach him language, and that's how it is. And it's also the fact that, you know, Chappie's very special because, you know, this is a world where the police are using special robots, and Chappie is very special. He's very unique and very different than the rest of the robots, because he's damaged, and he only has like 5 days of life. It's a world where the police are using special robots, and obviously Chappie is very special, obviously. But Chappie doesn't exactly understand everything. Like he does, because he's a robot. I mean, he's super smart and everything, but he's a robot, and so he only understands a little bit of anything, and so that's why he's confused and he doesn't understand anything. So that's the really sad part about it. There's a lot of, like, you know, the hardcore stuff, you know, especially that happens. It still happens with Chappie, and there's the scene where the gangsters. I don't. A lot of the movie was confusing. A lot of it was just like, what's going on? But there's a scene where the gangsters basically abandon Chappie with a bunch of guys who basically beat him up, and one of them puts him on fire. And I did not understand that. There's just so much of this movie that was like, what is going on right now? Like, what hell? Because I mean, I've seen movies like that. I've seen movies that, you know, I have no idea what's going on. Like, I kind of get the idea of it, but it's just like, it's so confusing and nothing makes sense. And that was really, that's the really tough part about it, was it did not, it kind of like with my my Princess of Thieves review, where I did not really know what was going on in the movie half the time. It's confusing, and this is another example. Confusing as fuck. What the hell's happening? Like, what's going on? Like, and another thing I really did not, you know, like all about the movie was the fact that Chappie goes from being, of course, like I said, going from a child to an adult, but what happened about how he became that is because the gang members, the gangsters, there's the girl, there's this girl who becomes, like, he was basically, you know, becomes a mother figure to Chappie, and Chappie calls her mommy or whatever. It's really weird, but the gangsters, they'll teach him basically to become a gangster. I don't think that the girl does, but the gangsters, all the gangsters, just teach him to become like them, become gangsters, and it's weird. It's just like, ugh, it's just like not my kind of thing, and that was really weird, and I just didn't. I didn't like that. And it's also the fact that Chappie is super intelligent, like really intelligent, because he has feelings. He can do things for himself. That was really really cool. That was a really really interesting aspect of the movie. And he gradually learns to to speak like a human, which is really good, really really cool. And actually, I could have sworn he was Australian, but apparently I looked it up and he's not. He was apparently voiced by a South African actor who looks a lot like Michael Bay. And it was really strange because I could have sworn a whole majority of the cast were Australian, but it's their accents. Like I could have sworn they were Australian, but it turns out they weren't. But that being said, Chappie is a very cool character. I like the robots in the movie. That was the only aspect I liked of the movie was the robots. Like literally, that's it. Everything else was like, ugh, keep away from me kind of thing. I didn't really like. That's why I didn't like the movie. I didn't hate it. No, God no, I didn't hate it. But I was very uncomfortable watching it. Just most of the movie I was uncomfortable watching. It's because it's very adult, and I don't like a lot of movies where, well, I mean, being an adult, I shouldn't mind, but this particular aspect, I just didn't appreciate it. But still, I felt like it had some kind of random points in it. Points where it didn't make sense. Like there was a point where the gangsters, they took a bunch of PS4s. I know, right? Like, why would they do that? But there's a scene where the head gangster member, the guy with the mullet, he takes like I'll take a bunch of those, and like why? I don't know why, but he did, and he just takes a bunch of PS4s, and Chappie uses them and the controller as a computer. It was weird. It's like, it is the most random movie you could ever watch. It is so random. Like, you have no idea what's going on. Like, why does Chappie have PS4s? And why is he using like 4 of them to make a computer? And why is he using a controller as a mouse? And why is that all happening? I mean, it's also the fact that Chappie, he evolves. He evolves from being like a literal child, because that's what he's acting like, because according to the programmer, the maker of the robot Chappie, who's Dion Wilson, I think his name is. Yeah, Dion Wilson. The only you don't know what his name is until you actually look on the news report of him. But basically, he created Chappie, and he basically explains that Chappie, his mind isn't ready yet or something, so because his battery is fused to something part of his body, like I said before, and I don't really understand what's going on there. So he can't be replaced, and so his mind is like a child, and of course the gangsters teach him to become like them, and be just like just help him learn to be human, and to learn just to learn, like just in general learn. And it's crazy because Chappie is turned into a gangster throughout the course of the movie. He's turned into a gangster and starts committing crimes, or as the gangsters call them, heists, which is, I guess, gangster language for crimes. But basically that's a big part of the movie, is that Chappie starts committing crimes along with the gangsters. Like the gangsters do the same thing. He goes along with the gangsters and all that stuff. And honestly, it's crazy because a lot of the movie made no sense, but it was also really weird. It's just a really weird movie, and I did not like the gangsters. Just I don't like it. It's not what a science fiction movie should have in it. Even in, I don't know, like maybe it's best for the year, but like I did not enjoy this movie. Well, I did not enjoy it. I enjoyed it somewhat, but most of it I did not enjoy. I'm just like I didn't enjoy it as much as other movies that I've seen in the past. There's other science fiction movies that I've seen, and that's saying something. Now there's a big point in the movie, and this happens like twice, where So first, the maker dies. Dean dies. If you didn't know that, it's been out for like 2 years. It came out in 2015, so it's at least a couple years old. So I'll spoil. That's part of this review show. I spoil things, and that's just the way it is. But basically, Dean Wilson, the creator of Chappie, he dies. There's a big firefight, and that's one of the things I did not appreciate in the movie, which is the firefight. And that also raises my previous point about the guy getting ripped up. That was just like, ugh. That's just it's just gross. Just gross. But basically, he dies, and Chappie uploads his consciousness to the orange police robot, because there's a orange robot that Chappie sees, like just like on this hook and like deactivated or whatever. And the really interesting part about the movie that I liked was having the ability to upload a dead person's conscience to a robot and have their mind live on. That was really cool. Kind of like Avatar. The end of Avatar, when I think her name is Grace. Her mind gets uploaded to the Navi. That kind of the same idea where if you die if you die, your mind is uploaded to a robot, and that's where you live on. I like that part about the movie, and it was really cool. It was really interesting, and it was a really sad part because later on in the movie, as much of the stuff I remember that I understood, I remember the movie. I didn't really understand a lot of it. As where, so the girl, the gangster girl, Yolandi, I think it was. Yeah, Yolandi. I remember now. I was watching the movie. Yolandi, the gangster girl I was talking about. She acts like a mom to Chappie, and is called Mommy for that reason. And she dies. Turns out that her consciousness was made like the last second via the PS4 computer thing that I was talking about earlier, and gets saved onto it, like her consciousness gets back like a backup file on a flash drive, which is weird. But basically that happens, and then it gets moved to a new robot with a more human face, like a human like face, and that was the very end of the movie. And unlike the normal robots that you see in the movie, like the Chappie robot, her face looks more human-like. And no, this movie is not going to get a sequel, so we can't find what happens next, because apparently according to the reviews, which is like 32% on Rotten Tomatoes, it was terrible. Some people didn't like it. I didn't like it either. I mean, there were parts I enjoyed, but it just was not a great movie. There's a good number of interesting things about this movie, but not a whole lot that I really enjoyed. But the really cool concept was having your mind, your consciousness being uploaded to another thing like a robot, and it was a really cool thing because her mind gets uploaded to a having like I think Chappie happens to have a backup file of her consciousness, which is her mind, and she gets uploaded to a human with a new robot with a human-like face. The face that resembles the gangster girl, but more robotic features, obviously, but still really. It was a really cool thing about them, but also the fact that if you die, your consciousness gets uploaded to a robot, which is where Dion, the maker's consciousness ended up going, and that was really strange because it was really interesting, but strange because that's just like a really new concept to me. I mean, also the fact that the maker was a British guy, but still, it has its moments. This movie, I mean, especially since Chappie sounded Australian. Or New Zealand, or whatever you want to call it. It turns out it's not. It's actually South African. I can't really tell the accents, but still, there were some good points about this movie. I wouldn't deny it. There were some great points about this movie, but it has its confusing points. Not my movie. I would never watch this movie again if I had the chance to. But there was a lot of good stuff in it. Like Hugh Jackman, Sigourney Weaver, like the robots. I really like that part about the movie. I really genuinely love that, especially having the characters die and be kind of reborn, have their mind reborn into the next life via robot, is very cool. Because it had that stuff in it. It was also the mech. There's these mech robots that are in the movie that, like I was talking about earlier, that are controlled by the Hugh Jackman character. And well, like he initially does control them, but basically that's the idea. And that was really cool because there's these mech robots that are controlled via this headset thing you put. It's like this helmet headset you put on, and you control the mech robot with that. They don't speak, but they do They are definitely robots, and they're definitely mechs. They look like mechs, obviously, but they're really interesting, and it was really cool. But overall, I'd say this movie was it was okay, but I did not like it. Uh, Generally, when I review movies, I like I like the movie, but I didn't like this movie because of the gangsta themes, and I just didn't like that. But there were some positive things about the movie that I enjoyed. But most of, so basically what I'm saying is most of the movie I didn't like, but there was some things that I really found interesting. There was quite a few things that I found interesting about the movie, but the rest of it, I'd say about 20% of the movie I found fascinating, but the rest of it was something that I just did not have any idea what was going on, or I didn't enjoy it, kind of thing. So that's really all I can say. So I think that's all I can say for Chappie. I definitely say it is not a movie I would recommend to most viewers, unless you are an adult and you can handle all this, violence and drugs and adult themes, all that stuff, graffiti, punk rock, punk gangsters, things like that, all that stuff. It's in there. It's all the place. It's a lot of swearing and language. I don't mind swearing, but in this particular sense, it didn't really need it. So anyway, that does it for this review. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it. Let me see. A rating, I would say, ooh, she's gonna be really sad and really rough, but it's the way I feel about the movie. 3 out of 10. Three of those 10s are the stuff I liked about it, which was the Hugh Jackman and Sigourney Weaver and the robots, and the rest of it, the other 7, out the window. That's my personal opinion. You may have a different opinion, and if you have one, go ahead and leave it in the comments below. We'll hear it. You're up to you. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this review. If you guys did enjoy this review, please hit that like button. I really do appreciate it. And if you're new to this channel, subscribe to make a miss by today, and I'll be back next time for another episode. Alright? See ya.